Hello, welcome. My name is William Lippe. I am the principal of Delone Catholic High School, and it is my privilege to share with you a few highlights that are meant to constitute, as it were, something of a state of the school. What's going on in the life of the school, the successes that we have experienced over the course of the past year or so. You are welcome to ask questions. I'm happy to answer those questions upon the conclusion of our program today. Simply ask your questions in the comment section below. Let me begin, first of all, with what took place this past weekend here at Delone Catholic. It was an extraordinary weekend. We began actually the weekend formally on Saturday the 11th with a welcome breakfast for the incoming freshman class. It was a well-received program. We provided breakfast for our students. They received an orientation to the academic program and the curriculum, what they can anticipate beginning this upcoming August. And it was concluded with prayer. It was characterized by additional icebreaker activities that were meant to build up community at this early point and create friendships that will hopefully last throughout those 4 years and beyond. It was a wonderful experience, well received by the freshmen and by their parents. Not long after its conclusion, the boys basketball team took to the Shepherd Gymnasium in a contest in pursuit of a state championship. If you weren't present for the game, I can assure you, on the basis of the authority of Eric Lawrence, class of '98, our advancement director, that a more thrilling contest has probably not been played on the Shepherd Gymnasium floor. The boys ultimately came up short by 3 points, and had they drained a three-point shot from the floor in the final seconds of the game, it may well have been that that game would have gone into overtime, and the team may well have won. They lost only by 3 points, a total score of 65-62. That game was followed by the girls, also in pursuit, the girls varsity basketball team, in pursuit of state gold. The girls won their game, and they will play this evening the second round in pursuit of a state championship for Delone Catholic. The weekend was also characterized by the production of Romeo and Juliet. Remarkable production. Our theater director really pulled the best out of our students, and it was a moving experience to watch our students produce a play written in Elizabethan English. The weekend really kind of constituted something of a microcosm of the good things that are taking place here at Delone Catholic, where we're forming doers of the word. Squire's success can be seen in a number of areas. In addition to theater and athletics, we continue to produce scholars. So, for example, this past fall revealed that one of our seniors was a commended scholar as a result of her performance on the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, also known as the PSAT. She has a bright academic career in front of her, as so many of our students do. That kind of success, of course, is built upon the kinds of investments that are made possible by so many who support our school. The support that helps to sustain our school underwrites, as it were, the good work that's taken place in the school. The school, during the pandemic year, the academic year of 2020-2021, was remarkable for its successful navigation of the pandemic. At that time, I was not formally associated with the school at that time. The vice principal was serving as the interim principal, Mrs. Donna Tompkins, and she navigated the school through an incredibly unprecedented set of challenges, such that the school never had to leave in-person instruction. We had some students, of course, receiving instruction virtually, but the school remained in session during that time. Actually, in point of fact, Delone Catholic was a leader amongst the schools of the Diocese of Harrisburg in navigating its response to the pandemic. It did so successfully. The school preserved in-person instruction and was able to meet the needs of its students in a uniquely successful fashion. Nationwide, what has been revealed is that when students had to to receive instruction, delivery of curriculum at home, virtually, there was corresponding learning loss. Our students did not experience that learning loss, and that's a credit to the leadership provided by Mrs. Tompkins and the indefatigable efforts of the faculty, who are greatly to be thanked for their efforts in making all that possible. Were it not for the faculty and their willingness to attend to the ongoing instruction of their students in an unprecedented set of challenges, I think we find ourselves in a different set of conditions at this time. The school is stronger, it's richer, it's arguably more, it has acquitted itself in terms of fidelity to its mission in a way that, in a certain sense, the pandemic made possible. Let me just share with you a few statistics I think that may help kind of fill out the picture. Our student enrollment at this time is 347 students, kind of equally divided between boys and girls. That is reflective of a trend that has been in place since the 2019-2020 academic year. We are anticipating at this point not only to replace the graduating class, the class of 2023, but the incoming class of freshmen may actually be larger than the graduating class, which would be a signal that we are moving in the right direction. The school arguably will not be characterized by the kind of enrollment that may have characterized it, say, back in 1963 or sometime in the 60s or the early 70s, when student enrollment at this school was, as I understand from Eric Lawrence, in the neighborhood of 1,000 or more students. I mean, frankly, we don't have enough lockers in the building to accommodate 1,000 plus students. But we are moving in a direction that is sustainable, and more than that, reflective of our capacities to meet the needs of our student body. What we're coming to recognize is that, frankly, I mean, as in every generation, the needs of the students are different from a previous generation. I mean, think about this. Our students have survived a pandemic. When I was a student back in the 80s, there was no pandemic. Our students are operating in an environment that's kind of gaslit by social media. You and I didn't experience that when we were students. The cultural conditions under which our students are operating are very unique to this generation. Their needs as students are unique. And the school is proving itself successful in meeting the needs of our students. We have 347 students. Our teacher-to-student ratio stands at approximately, student-to-teacher ratio stands at about 10.5 to 1. That includes, by the way, 3 guidance counselors who serve our students, who are indispensable, absolutely essential to the delivery of our curriculum and attending to the well-being of our students. What we're seeing is, frankly, that the school is moving in a direction that is kind of increasingly student-focused. Now, I know I was the product of Catholic education myself. And Catholic schools in this country kind of historically have been characterized with kind of placing a certain kind of premium upon the delivery of curriculum. That's no less true today. But today, ours is the challenge of actually meeting the needs of students that kind of go beyond the classroom, include the classroom, but go beyond the classroom. And so the school is increasingly becoming, as it were, kind of student-centered or student-focused. And in doing so, frankly, that provides us as a Catholic institution to attend to the whole person. I mean, frankly, being a Catholic educator at this time is a privileged opportunity. I mean, ours is a ministry. Above all else, I mean, this school is an ecclesial institution, an ecclesial institution of the Diocese of Harrisburg, dedicated to the ongoing faith formation of these young people who are living in a set of cultural conditions that didn't characterize a previous generation. And it's our privilege to meet their needs as ministers of the gospel. I can't think of a higher calling, and it's my privilege to serve as the school's principal. During the course of my time as principal, I've been able to build upon the success of my predecessor in terms of upgrades to the facilities. So for example, I mean, if you were to step into the cafeteria today, it would look probably very different from the way you remember it as a student yourself. Right now, I mean, I like to think that our cafeteria, and I've been told that it does, is kind of characterized by a kind of greatest level of conviviality. Tables and chairs were replaced, the space was repainted, new lighting was introduced. This corresponds to recent upgrades to the Shepherd Gymnasium, long overdue, to upgrades to the baseball and softball diamonds that were arguably also long overdue. We want to provide, of course, a set of services and facilities that are commensurate, frankly, to the needs of our students, and frankly, are reflective, frankly, of the worth that our students are to us as an institution. Along the same lines, I recently submitted a request to the Stuckman School at Penn State. The Stuckman School, of course, is the school at Penn State that is dedicated to architecture, landscape architecture, and graphic design to help us, assist us in some upgrades to the grounds of our school, especially in front of the building on Oxford Avenue and along Delone Avenue. If you were to drive by the school, and perhaps you have, you'll notice that there is now a new digital sign that was made possible through the generosity of the Diocese of Harrisburg. The school had to pay very little for that digital sign. We were grateful to the generosity of the Diocese of Harrisburg. And we anticipate ongoing facilities improvements, all at the service of making sure that we're providing services and facilities that are worthy of our students. Again, I mentioned to you a moment ago that increasingly the school, like so many schools, Catholic and otherwise, are operating from a point of departure that really places the student at the very center of our calculation. That's our high calling, that's our noble mission, and in doing so, it's our hope and our expectation, if we be faithful, that God will reward us with producing students who are in fact doers of the word. All of that, of course, is made possible by your ongoing support and assistance to us. We are grateful for that. Frankly, we couldn't do it without you. We truly couldn't do it without you. It is the case that an evaluation of our financial numbers reveals, frankly, that we have some work to do just in terms of making sure that our costs are as efficient as possible, so that the average cost or the actual cost of education is as efficient as it possibly can. Bear in mind something very important. 60 years ago, this school would have been staffed almost exclusively by a women religious, with a priest serving as a principal. Most of my predecessors as principal were priests of the Diocese of Harrisburg. Today, of course, the school is staffed by lay people. Whereas the sisters who staffed the school in times past would have perhaps received some sort of stipend in order to cover some personal needs, they lived in housing that was provided by area parishes. Lay people, of course, living in the world, have different sort of economic requirements and needs. And so that places a certain kind of stress upon the school that didn't exist, say, back in 1963, 1965. But for all of that, we worked very hard to make sure that the education that we're providing is as affordable to as many families who want their children to receive an education at Delone Catholic. And with your help and your support, we've been successful in that regard. On a going forward basis, it is the case that I have a few goals for the school. It is the case that the school, and I've spoken about this matter with the school's board of directors, there's a need for a renewed, as we emerge from the pandemic, there's a need for us to have a new strategic plan that's meant to kind of identify what our goals are for, say, the next 3 to 5 years. Correspondingly, there should be a master facilities plan. The truth is, Charles Delone commissioned the original construction back in 1939. That gives you a sense of how old the original construction was. And the additions that have been added to that, of course, were built not terribly long thereafter. Those facilities require ongoing maintenance and improvements. So we do need a master facilities plan. And then probably shortly thereafter, depending upon what the strategic plan reveals, as well as a master facilities plan, one could imagine, for example, some sort of capital campaign helping us to move out on some of the strategic goals identified in the strategic plan. This is a ripe time to support the ministry of Delone Catholic High School. The truth of the matter is, the voice of the church in the public square is otherwise kind of under threat. And I say that as someone who's paranoid. The church has an important message to be heard, in my estimation, in the public square. Catholic schools are meant to equip young people to provide a measure of witness to the church's perennial teaching. And your support is important to our efforts at equipping our students to be, as is the motto of our school, doers of the word. All of this is made possible by your generosity, your support, your prayers, above all else, in sustaining our mission. I want to thank all of you. Do know that you're important to us, and that I'm grateful again once more for the time spent with you. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. Mrs. Furman has been following the comments, and she will communicate those questions to me.
Anyone who has questions can comment on our Facebook post or message us on Facebook, and we'll share those questions with Mr. Lippe. In the meantime, we can give an update for our Squire Impact Day.
Please. Thank you, Brody. I've just received this message from Brody Collins, class of 23. We received 80 gifts thus far in the amount of $19,410.50. Thank you very much, Brody.
Thank you.
Don't be shy. I'm happy to answer any question. I know that perhaps I've spoken quickly at points. If you were to be here at the beginning of the day when I lead the school in prayer and announcements, the speed with which I do that is deliberately slow. Some students have remarked that I'm perhaps a little bit too slow when I'm leading them in the Lord's Prayer. But this being something of a new experience for me, and perhaps for you as well, it's a bit anxiety-producing for me. And as a consequence, I probably spoke a little bit too quickly. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about the state of the school. Okay. Okay, well, we have none. You should so we'll conclude at this point. But if questions do arise, please do not hesitate to ask them. You should always feel free to reach out to the school, reach out to me personally. I can be reached at WLIPPE at DeloneCatholic.org. You're also welcome to call the school. It's often the case that I'm away from my desk, in the building, amongst the students. That phone number, the phone number is 717-637-5969. Again, 717-637-5969. And if that is it, I wish you all adieu. As we heard many times in the course of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet this past weekend, God bless you. Thank you very much.
I'm making my mark, will you? I'm making my mark. Will you?
I'm making my mark. How about you?
We're making our mark, will you?
I made my mark. How about you?
We're making our mark, will you?
I'm making my mark. How about you?
I'm making my mark. How about you?
I'm making my mark. Will you?
I'm making my mark, will you?
I'm making my mark. Will you?
I'm making my mark. Will you?